Let's discuss this in more detail with Luciano Zaccara, who's an associate professor at the Gulf Studies Centre at Qatar University. He joins me live on the line from Doha. So let's just start with that issue then. The fact that Donald Trump's suggestion that Gaza be turned into some kind of Riviera, it seems to have spurred Arab nations into action. Do you think they will come up with some kind of plan moving forward?
Well, exactly. This is what we expect, that tomorrow or there will be something that can be suggested as an alternative of the plan of Trump. Actually, we are expecting something that is doable, that is acceptable by Israel. We have to always bear in mind that anything that would happen in the Gaza Strip requires Israeli approval, because at the end of the day, it's the occupying force that is allowing things to happen or not to happen in the Gaza Strip. We are expecting that something that is coming tomorrow. We know some elements, but we don't know the details so far. It's something that can be negotiable or can be acceptable. And as far as Israel is accepting or saying that it's doable, we are suggesting, the United States will support that. The problem is that there are some elements that they are difficult to negotiate. First of all, it has to do with who is going to take care of the Gaza Strip, which kind of government we can expect, whether with Hamas or without Hamas, or without Hamas even on the ground, and the withdrawal of total withdrawal of the Israeli troops from the Philadelphia corridor, and moving forward towards a permanent ceasefire, which are the other elements that they are still under very, very heavy discussion.
Luciano, if we look at phase one of the ceasefire deal, I mean, it does seem as though things went according to plan. Hamas handed over hostages. Israel eventually returned prisoners. Is there anything that leaps out to you as to why things have derailed heading into the second phase?
I think, on one hand, we can say that there's not very big political will on the Israeli side to comply with some of the elements of the ceasefire, mainly because some part of the Israeli government are still against that. We have to remember that Ben-Gvir, Smotrich were always against that, that they considered was at the end of the day losing on the negotiation table what they want on the battlefield, and they consider this a humiliation. Moreover, considering that they are negotiating with Hamas, which is supposed to be eliminated after this war, according to what Netanyahu was expressing. So they want to reach a second phase without Hamas in the picture, absolutely out of the picture. I was thinking that even if we move toward the third phase, should be absolutely without the presence of Hamas, and without giving the opportunity to Hamas to survive and to rearm in the future, as Hamas keeps saying that they will do, because they will not abandon the resistance. So there are some incompatibilities that they are still at stake. It's difficult to think that Israel would be willing to continue, at least in the terms they were signed in January.
If we look at the way that Israel has behaved politically during this ceasefire, I can't say what their mentality was at the time they were doing these things, but they do seem to have been particularly sensitive when they complained about the manner in which Hamas was conducting the handover of the hostages. They made a delay on returning prisoners. That's not part of the deal. There's not a clause that covers that kind of activity, but they took it into their hands to do that, but they eventually delivered. Now, Israel, the Prime Minister is saying that Hamas is stealing the aid that is coming into Gaza, and that's his justification for stopping the aid. Do you think that the reasons that they've given for constantly making life more difficult for people in the Gaza Strip and for constantly interfering with the administering of this ceasefire, do you think they are justified or not?
Well, if we consider that every time there is a problem or delay, the first thing that Israel does is to threaten to stop the humanitarian aid to enter in the Gaza Strip, something that has been under discussion since the first day the war, and they have been always using that as a leverage to push or to pressure people inside Gaza. We can see that there is no justification. There is never justification to starve people or to cut energy, or cut food supplies, because at the end of the day, they are not acting against Hamas, they are acting against the people in Gaza. So I don't think there is justify this threat to say that if they don't move towards the next step, they will start, because they have been doing this all this time. I don't think there's a justification to do that. Of course, there are some room for negotiation or some for unrest. The Israeli side, if you want, because of the way that they handle the risk of the hostages, but it's something that has been discussed and has been negotiated, and there have been corrections along the process that I think that cannot justify this kind of extreme measure that Israel threatened to use.
Luciano, thank you so much for joining me. My guest is Luciano Zaccara, who's an associate professor at the Gulf Studies Center of Qatar University.
Thank you very much for having me.